Thursday night in Belize City, it's Belizean Workers' Rights Hour of Reasoning with your host, Yaya Marin Coleman, and our co-host who's on his phone, Brother Dean Flowers, the current president of the Public Service Union. Good night, brother. How the night? Your mic not on.
Good night. Yeah. Blessed Thursday, Belize, and to our viewers across the globe. As usual, always a privilege and happy to be on. Good night to our guests and welcome, Brother Moose.
Respect. So, yes, it's the eighth episode in our first season where we have conversations about the rights and responsibilities of Belizean workers. And tonight, our guest is Mose Hyde, the president of the Christian Workers Union. Welcome, Mose.
Yeah, man, greetings, Sister Yaya. I'm very honored to be on the show as a guest. Respect, Brother Dean. Salute on the work on the do on Thursday evenings. And yeah, hopefully I can add meaningful value to the conversation before it's finished. No?
I assure you under that. I absolutely assure you under that. This may be one of our harder shows to date because today is July 22nd. It's a year of the 1919 uprising of Black Belizeans against systems of oppression in Belize. It's the year anniversary of the 35 Belizeans being unlawfully terminated from the Port of Belize Limited. And it's not even 24 hours since we've been told that our stevedores will no longer be working the sugar barge because it's heading south. And that's a lot of money being sucked out of the community. Consistently hearing that CEOs are going to be making $76,300 a year. It's a lot. It's a lot emotionally. So Mose, I cannot even imagine what the people who the union represent are feeling, the vibration they're carrying, the impact long term on their lives. What a difficult time it is right now for Belizean workers. So, as the Christian Workers Union president, how do you process that? Because you're with people who you represent, and you hear the stories we'll never hear. How do you process that?
I'd process it all or process something specific. I think when you're in the middle, and maybe Brother Dean can speak to this, when you're in the middle of a process, and yes, yesterday was devastating. Yesterday on many fronts was a very difficult day to deal with. Not only did the ruling or the position of the government finally made known that it would not defend its own agreement that it signed in 2006. Not only did that news come down on us, but then simultaneously the sugar ship that was being worked by our members actually picked up its anchors and it went down south. And with it, it took almost $150 worth of earnings for about 28 of our members. That's what they would have made over the next month working that barge. And that is done, and it is done because the members had to go on a go slow simply to get the attention, simply to get what should have been there naturally, a fair and just engagement, negotiation, and more importantly, an active intervention from the government of Belize, which these things were only set into motion as a result of the action that our members had to take, which was an option of last resort. And so you are punished and you are devastated twice in one day. The immediate loss and then dealing with the loss of income for the rest of your professional career as a stevedore. In fact, we've been saying 40%, but our members were going through some of their documents and they put it in some instances up to about 57% of their annual earnings will go with the sugar going down to Big Creek.
Oh.
So,
And there's no alternative. That's the final word.
well, ASR does not want to, they have made the decision, and from what I've been told, they have invested their millions and constructed storage in Big Creek. The government has decided that they support that position, and the employer, PBL, who logic would suggest would, for if only this once, share some common ground with its employees, because one would figure that they would be interested in holding on to the revenues that they get from sugar, unexplainably chose to accept without a fight government's position, while still maintaining that government's position is wrong, but articulating their view that one must accept government's ruling. We are talking here about a Michael Ashcroft owned entity, saying that essentially they believe if government believes that this is the thing to do, well, then this must be the thing to do. I've never heard something as strange as that for a very long time. So it's really only thing that we have is ourselves, and the extent to which the community is going to support our cause is all that we have remaining. And so what we have to do, obviously, is to gather ourselves and to figure what our next moves are going to be.
What can you share with us before I turn the mic over to Brother Dean Moores? It's a year anniversary of the termination of Belizeans from the Port of Belize Limited, the firing of rubber bullets and tear gas on peaceful protesters. A year later, what is the status of those employees who were terminated?
Well, painfully, I have to tell you that we have yet to get our matter heard. Obviously, we have been told that the Labor Complaints Tribunal is now ready, and we've been told that our matter is going to be heard in the first part of August. But, the big problem with that, Sister Yaya and Dean, is that when you allow so much time to go, so much is lost. Because as good as our memories are, when it's time for our members to go and testify in front of a tribunal, they will not be as good in August of 2021 as they would have been in August or September of 2020. Insofar as being able to describe all the things that were going on that compound leading up to their rude termination by WhatsApp text. So what today reminds me of, and I say to our members, and what it reminds me of, what I thought about today was just how unjust it is that state took so long to put in place a mechanism that it got right. We spend a lot of time talking about the things that the state gets wrong. amendments that we don't like, laws that we don't agree with, policies that we find to be unacceptable. Often we spend so much of the talk show talking about what they don't do properly. But here we have an instance where they must have, they woke up sober one day and they were not under the influence, and they actually, obviously guided by the entire movement and engagement from labor, no doubt. But they had this moment of clarity when they actually decided they were going to put in place something that works. And so there it is in black and white. We will create a labor complaints tribunal so that the average worker has access to get his case or her case heard without having to go in pocket, without having to wait for the long queue for civil trial or the court to hear their cases. That this is like a court, it's the equivalent of a court, but it will be there just for workers. Well, excellent. Just one problem. Written in black and white, signed, but no interest to ever bring it into flesh. There it remained for almost a decade, unused, inaccessible. And when we fall under the axe of a very unjust union busting layoff, we had nowhere to go. Our members have had to sit and wait and watch them build the building. It's like if you are, it's the equivalent of a hurricane is coming and everybody knew that we need to have shelters, and the building of the shelter started when the hurricane was landing. And all you have to do now is to watch them build a shelter while you need to get in there desperately. But you can't rush the process because there's only one way to build a shelter. You have to do it properly. And so we've had to just sit down, and our members have had to just deal and confront that as much as they have wanted to get that moment to tell their stories, it's not there. So yes, their cases will be heard. Yes, we will eventually get our matters put before that tribunal, but the injustice has already been done. The insult has already been served. You can't undo that kind of damage. It cannot be undone. So that's what was in my mind today as we mark that dubious year.
Respect, Brother Dean. You could go ahead and ask Brother Mo some questions.
Yeah, it's good night again, and good night to those who have joined us. It's really a difficult period. I can certainly appreciate Brother Mose for yourself and CW. 1 year ago, I believe the anniversary was yesterday, that these 13 workers were terminated, and then we had that period of unrest. And 1 year after, and what's even more not coincidental, but what's a bit ironic here is that you experienced this under a previous administration, and 1 year after, on the anniversary, a new prime minister comes in and says he's not bothered. He's pretty much not bothered by this because he is a cane farmer. And at the end of the day, it suits his interests as the prime minister, who is supposed to be someone who needs to separate himself from being a cane farmer to now being a leader of a country that should be seeing how, as a leader, he can create a balance that works for everybody. And without apology, on the news last night, he said, look, I'm a cane farmer, so this will create savings for me. In essence, that's what he said. And it's, like I said, there's a lot of things wrong with our system of governance. And sadly, it is only the workers that suffer. and even in the face of another crisis, because this is a crisis that will now hit these families. We have a leader speaking about his interests as a skin farmer versus the employees that would be affected, similar to him defending rather immaturely not cutting CEOs' pay and cutting 15,000 public officers' pay. Leaves a lot to be desired from the highest elected office of this country. But the most, in terms of the Labor Complaints Tribunal, as you rightly said, for 13 years almost, under the previous administration, that tribunal was not active. And so when there was a need for the tribunal, it was not there to serve the interests of workers of this country. As we speak today, the 22nd of July, what is the latest coming out of the Labor Department in terms of, I know they were working on adapting the procedures to start engaging in these complaints, but as we speak today, 27th of July, how early can we expect that the tribunal will start hearing the cases of these 13 workers?
The last I heard was that they had projected next week as when they would officially open their doors. I know that we are the first, but what they were saying to us that we present some complications because the present chair was the attorney who prepared our complaints last year. That's Attorney Anthony Sylvester, who is now the chair of the Labor Complaints Tribunal. And then we also have a situation where the representative from Labor, from the TUC that is on the tribunal, Sister Ella is our treasurer at CWU. And so there are some issues there, as well as the fact that the employer had also requested that the labor commissioner could not be on the tribunal because of the letters that she had sent to PBL. They felt that it exposed her as having a bias in the situation. So because of those complicating factors, it takes a lot more to figure out how it is going to be constituted for our matters. So that is why, even though we were the first in line, they have us tentatively pushed into August.
Okay.
And I want to say this for the dean, that I would be a bit dishonest to not accept the fact that collectively we are responsible for the fact that it took so long for the Labor Complaints Tribunal to be constituted and put in place. I believe that we should have identified its importance, and we should have never tolerated the level of delay and the level of procrastination on something that important. Many times when the state fails us, we give it the breathing room that allows them to be so miserable at the important things when we should be right up close and pressing them. And so I believe that collectively we should all learn from this. And I'm speaking about the Labor family, that we have to look and see all the slack that we've got to take in, that we cannot allow things to be there and simply because it was passed in to law, simply just become complacent, and then before you know it, time flies by and the thing does not come to life. So I think we really have to take a hard look at that and take a bit of responsibility ourselves. Whether we are talking here from the labor standpoint or we're talking here from the media standpoint. Personally, I found out the importance of the Labor Complaints Tribunal when I was in the middle of the fire. So it's really about saying, guess what? We got to be so focused and so alert and so ready to press on things that maybe it is not in its emergency form, but we can see where it's going to hurt us. So we have to move preemptively, and we have to move with purpose. I think we have to take that lesson home from this Labor Complaints Tribunal.
Most definitely, Brother Mose. And I'm still a bit confused as now a leader in the labor movement. How is it that it could have come through such a very important tribunal not even being in existence? While I have not served in the Council of Management beyond 3 years, I'm asking myself, is it that there were no laborers in this country that never complained to the labor commissioner about being unfairly dismissed? Is it that no public officer was ever affected over the last 10 years, that this was not brought to the attention of my union, the PSU, your union, the CWU, the NTUCB, who has representatives on the Labor Advisory Board, has representative on the tripartite body? I believe that all of these committees and tribunals and boards are supposed to be intertwined in some shape or form. So I am baffled that you are right, that we all collectively failed as individuals within the labor movement to ensure that these mechanisms are in place. I want to touch on the issue of the now chairman, Brother Anthony Sylvester, who you rightly said was representing you guys. So clearly he has an open book in terms of the case that you guys will be presenting. So clearly he would have to excuse himself from being a part of that tribunal. The problem there, I believe, the other suitable individual would have been the labor commissioner, but now you're saying even her, the employers, PBL is saying that they don't want her there, which is then saying that in their view, we have a senior public officer who in their view does not carry out or act impartially in carrying out her duties, because that is in a sense what they're saying, that based on the letters, I'm pretty quite sure the letters that she sent them were all in accordance with the law. And so how can you say, because you wrote me in accordance with the law, I'm objecting to you sitting on this tribunal to do what you're being paid to do, which is to ensure that these kind of disputes or complaints are settled in accordance with the law and in a fair manner. So
which kind of highlights the irony that the same entity that is comfortable in telling the labor commissioner, you are unfit to sit anywhere near a tribunal that deals with me, can say to us, whatever government decides, they will have to accept. It's the same organization. It's not two different things. The same PBL who are unwilling to have the labor commissioner stay because they're not too happy with she. They're not too happy with what she writes. She's a little bit too leaning towards the union's position. So we will have our big expensive attorneys just write you, and then everybody will just fly into line. But when it comes to losing what it has lost with sugar going south, somehow, strangely, no, we are choir boys. Government says A, then it's A. It's really surreal. It's absolutely surreal. But I agree with you. I had a conversation with the former labor commissioner. I think he called me when you guys, I think it was yourself and Brother Luke, you were on my show, and this was, I think, before the before the full explosion over the salary cut. I think you had a preemptive visit to my show to say, well, you know, this is where things are going, and then you spoke about the Labor Complaints Tribunal and about the fact that you guys, once you had the change in administration and complaints were coming in, and you guys have started that agitation as well to say we need to have access to the Labor Complaints Tribunal. I think it was in the immediate aftermath of your visit to my show that I actually got a call from Mr. Williams, and I want to thank him for that call because he wanted to shed some light on what happened with the Labor Complaints Tribunal. And what he described to me was kind of like a similar situation with the Integrity Commission. Like this was what the administration was saying at the time, similar to how they were having problems finding an attorney to be on the Integrity Commission. That's what they were saying about the Labor Complaints Tribunal. There was this there was an argument over, I think, the nominee from the courts, Chief Justice, and there was this kind of back and forth, and so this was kind of like the initial unsolvable problem. You know, we don't have the mental bandwidth to somehow creatively solve some kind of a bottleneck like that. So rather than stress yourself over that, guess what? That's not too important. Just leave that one side. I think it's a similar thing to what happened with the Integrity Commission. Like, oh, we can't fix that. Nobody wants to be exposed, and let's just put that on. So that's what happened. At least that's the sense that I got from him initially. But whatever it is they were flagging as some of the hurdles to get this thing put together, there should have been zero tolerance on the part of Labour to hear that nonsense. I think we should have been on top of them and say, listen, this is not some kind of quantum physics mathematical equation that we are trying to solve. This is just, we're trying to find somebody that has character and has some level of training and expertise that can hold this position. We need this operational, and we need to get it operational now. I think it was a high priority, it would have been solved.
Yeah. Totally agree with you, and I think the analogy that you draw with the Integrity Commission, which again, very important and could have helped in solving a lot of the governance issues that we're having. It was the similar nonchalant, dismissive approach that was taken there. My final question to you, Moose, as we wind down, before we engage our other participants, is how does the movement now of the sugar barge to Big Creek, how does that now impact or affect the current trade dispute and the ongoing CBA discussion with Port of Belize?
You are very familiar. Anybody who's been active in unions and in how you have to do these things, you have certain responsibilities. So we still had to meet yesterday afternoon with the employer because what we've been asking for, despite the fact that we believe strongly that the MOU should protect us, we still have to be responsible and say, if the government decides that it's going to do what it does, we need to know that our members at the very least are going to get some kind of compensation for all the years that they have worked sugar. And, it's weird because the Prime Minister actually tries to use that against us to say, well, we were conscious of the fact that sugar would go. That is the reason why we signed the agreement that we did in March of last year. I would like to correct the Prime Minister that we are conscious that we could not depend on the state to protect us and protect our interests. That is why we had to try to ensure that at least we have that insurance policy in hand, That is what we were conscious of. Now, we weren't conscious of ASR going to move because nobody told us ASR was going to move. ASR didn't tell us they were going to move ever. Nobody on behalf of ASR told us they were going to move. Not even the employer told us that we were going to move. The only things we have heard are rumors. In fact, you can go right into recent news earlier 2021, where the present Minister of Agriculture actually stated that ASR was going to be quick. And they were immediately corrected by an ASR representative on the same newscast, or maybe the night after that, saying, no, the Minister of Agriculture is is jumping the gun. No decision like that has been made. So everything has been done clandestinely. Yes, we know, we have heard the trucks have been bought. We've heard that they have built up the place down in Big Creek. We know that they were doing trial runs, and we know that they have engaged our sister union, the Belize Workers Union in the north, that represent the men who work with the barges and prepare and deal with the barges of that side. We're talking about 30 workers who are also affected, they have completely become redundant. So we have heard stuff, but nobody has ever, not the employer, not the government, not ASR, have ever said to us, we are going to move. We have had to just trust what we are hearing on the ground and then try to create some insurance policy. So yes, we have to negotiate this redundancy package. And for the first time, since March of last year, the employer has said, okay, we are going to discuss numbers with you. So that process has to happen. And the process of the staff CBA has to happen. And so there's been some commitment to dates where we have committed daily 4 to 5 hours of negotiation on these issues starting next week, Wednesday. So we have gotten movement on those things. But Sister Yaya, Brother Dean, let me be honest, you don't have to be a mathematician to understand that there is no redundancy package that can come near to what it is you lose when your earnings are cut in half for the remainder of your professional life. And anybody that was going to be next in line to be a stevedore will never know what it is to earn what stevedores have earned for generations. What has happened overnight, in just the twinkling of an eye, is that stevedoring you have moved out of being from earning a lower middle class earning to now you have been pushed down overnight. You have just, stevedoring as a profession has moved from living wage reality into now you're looking now just getting what you get on the container, and you're just doing that when there is a ship in. Your total per annum earnings now put you in a totally different income bracket. Just overnight, 160 families. They don't own farms. They don't live in a part of the town where there is industry. The only industry that existed was this, and that has been taken away. So we negotiate redundancy because our members say, well, listen, we have to get something. But ultimately, we remain right where we are right now with a bone stuck in our throat, where we have completely been disregarded and pushed to the back. And that's where we are.
Respect, Mose. Thanks. Right now it's 7:34. We generally go at 7:30 and give the mic to the participants to engage each other, the guest, the co-host. And this is where Brother Dean usually leads this segment. Go ahead, Brother Dean. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks, Mose.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can zoom out my screen here. I see we have 25 participants tonight. Lovely. Rules of engagement. We ask that when you speak, that you kindly turn on your camera so that we can appreciate your beautiful smile. You're free to ask our guest, Brother Mose, any question, or you're free to make general comments on industrial relations, labor-related issues, or any comment or express your sentiments as it relates to the ongoing challenges and current situation that the CWU is currently engaged in. I see Brother Philip Tate has his hand up, so Brother Tate, the mic is yours.
Thanks very much, Brother Dean. Brother Mose, thanks very much for the clarity in terms of some of the information shared as it pertains to the what CWU is going through. It is testimonial for the rest of the unions in this group, because our turn is next. But part of the conversation I wanted to add to was the issue of the conflict between the executive, the head of state for the government of Belize, and what is happening with respect to what should be done for CWU. So that in itself opens an entire set of can of worms that I think NTUCB will have to look at, because even if the state doesn't want to intervene, the state have a moral and a fiduciary responsibility to be able to step in. So, Brother Dean, I think we really have to put this, and Sister, what's her name, is in the room, who have some legal training, who is a trained lawyer. Sister Pitts is in the room. We need to be able to put this on the agenda on the way forward, because if it's happening to CW, know it's just a matter of our turn next. Thanks very much. I'll leave it there for
now. Your comment is on point, Brother Tate. And you spoke of the conflict of interest, but you even failed to address who is the current Minister of Agriculture. One of his big issues while he was in a position was also along the line of cane industry. So, the cane industry. So clearly, the conflict does not only lie with the Prime Minister, but it lies with also the Minister of Agriculture. And so these two individuals clearly should not have formed a part of government's decision not to see how they can, I don't know, address or respect the memorandum of understanding that they had ensured that these entities had gotten into. So thanks for your comment, Brother Tate. Again, feel free, brothers and sisters, to raise your hand and make a comment or ask your question to Brother Mose. 26 participants. We must could engage the good brother tonight. And again, like I said, if you do not wish to comment specifically on the CWU situation, you can also discuss other topics of interest or other labor-related issues.
You may also put your comments in the chat space if you would like to. And the show is structured for this half hour for you, the participants to engage. Trust me, me and Brother Dean could engage Brother Mose for the next half hour or so. But, you know, we had the mic for half hour, so therefore no turn for this next.
I would just want to say to Brother Tate that he does make a good point. One of the contradictions in the whole thing is that the government is an actual shareholder in ASR, and it's actually Ms. Sandra Corey who makes the point that this creates a situation that is not healthy, that she argues against having a situation where the government that has to play the role of a regulator is then simultaneously a shareholder in an entity. Because when the government says that ASR is a private entity, it fails to acknowledge that it has shares in ASR. So when ASR decided to go down to Big Creek and started to invest in Big Creek, it is the equivalent of the government breaching the very agreement that it signed in 2006, because it's a participant to the process. So the government signs an agreement to say that these industries in the north of the country and all industries before Big Creek came into being can't go to and use Big Creek. Only industries in the south can use Big Creek. But we will use Big Creek as we see fit. So we're going to breach our own agreement. So that's what has happened here. So there is a conflict of interest. And another aspect to the point that Brother Tate raised was that we have not been engaged by the executive on the matter of the MOU. We have not been, in fact, when we wrote our letter on the 28th of May, we did not get a response until we went on a go slow from the Prime Minister, and that did not respond to the MOU. We have yet, even after yesterday, we have yet to be officially responded to on the matter of the MOU. We know what government's position on the MOU is, but we don't know what their justification is. They have not explained that to us. We were informed of government's position on the MOU by the CEO of the employer to begin our negotiations. Oh, by the way, CWU, I was just called by the Minister of Public Utilities and Transport to say that government's position is that they are in support of ASR going to Big Creek. That is what we know officially. We don't know anything else. And even after everything you've seen on the news, CWU, on behalf of our members, we have not been engaged. We have not been emailed and said, listen, this is what we deliberated. These were the issues, and this is the reason why you're going to lose $2 million. That has not been done as yet. Imagine that has not been done. We were not even told, come in and let us hear your side of the MOU or what you would expect of us. Or how do you think we could maybe cut a deal on this? We were not even afforded that. But they met with the employer, who did not raise the issue with them. The employer did not produce the MOU to them, but they had a meeting with the employer. And then they reported to the employer their position on the agreement, but not to the workers. You can't understand the level of insult that we feel. And I stated it in the meeting. I can state it now. We have been humiliated by the state. Yeah. We have been treated like a piece of shit by the state. That's how we've been treated. When you have not even given us the decency of, let us hear your side about this MOU. Let us hear how you think we could work this, and then hear why we believe that this situation is beyond our control or nothing like that. Nothing like that.
So then,
wow.
Brother,
we have
one second, Sister
Maya. I'll give you the mic, Brother Tate. Let me read these two comments, and then you can have the mic. Sure. And so Kevin said, I think the Prime Minister saying that he's also a cane farmer is in itself a conflict of interest. It is him basically saying that he's looking out for himself first. Christina A. Alosa said, I logged in late, sorry, but is the CEO returning to pay as of May 2020? Is that confirmed? We're seeing inequality actions. If we're all supposed to be sacrificing, and it's relevant to stevedores who are being sacrificed, so to speak. And then Kevin said, the government is constantly looking out for themselves and their families and cronies. Brother Tate, go ahead.
I just wanted to add what Brother Mose said in terms of the conflict for government and ASR. So then the issue for Sister Ella is mute, because if the Prime Minister and the Minister of Agriculture could be in conflict, so then the Chairman and Sister Ella is mute. They aren't in conflict anymore.
Absolutely, Brother Tate.
Mose, I know I missed it. I totally missed it last night. So hosting WB this morning was a part of the conversation. I'm wondering how many Belizeans missed the gravity of this deception, of this betrayal by the state to its people.
Most
I
of
really
my
don't.
most of my interview was edited out. Most of my I was very upset when I was interviewed yesterday, but a lot of it was taken out and not used. So I guess it's not just a matter of missing it; it just wasn't there, and so it really means that I will have to go on the record and explain all that has happened, where it is we can control what it is, control the platform, right? Because we cannot depend on these little inserts to really make our people know what has taken place here, the way we've been treated. The, I say we because I'm honored by that, the fact that at the very least I can put myself along with with some very strong warriors, because they started, the stevedores were not even to come out of 2003 alive, economically speaking. Once the port was privatized, the intention was absolutely the investor and the state were of the understanding that the investor would be able to hire who he wanted to hire on that waterfront. So what had been built by the stevedores was essentially going to be taken away from them, and you would have ended up with cheap labor on the waterfront. They were done because, in the words of the investor at the time, and the stevedores remember those words clearly, I pay for it, I hire who I want. There's a famous meeting that was held in Belmopan. Famous meeting, and you really need to talk to some of the stevedores who were there, but weapons had to be drawn in that meeting with the prime minister and the investor and legendary stevedores like the late Police Smart. We understand, slammed on the desk and said, well, I have to kill all the way. And from there, the stevedores charged the pair and threw away the key and held all the equipment and essentially faced down the new investor and the state to hold on to. So I'm saying here that from the day it was privatized, they became an endangered species. From the day they privatized, no other entity has been forced into physical conflict with the state like stevedores. Between 2003 and 2021, go and check the news archive and see how many times they have had to fight at the port. It's not because they are violent prone. It's not because they're crazy. It's because they have been under attack, totally under attack. They were not supposed to, they were not to come out, they were not supposed to survive privatization. They were not supposed to survive receivership. That's not the way it was supposed to be. And so now this is a part of their, we got our hands on a draft policy, sisters and brothers, and I didn't want to come on the show and preach, and I will stop. But let me just say this part. Somebody leaked a draft policy coming out from the Port Authority. The Port Authority, which features two former employees of the PBL who, my understanding, are pretty loyal to the alliance that controls PBL. They now run the Port Authority. And coming out of the Port Authority is a draft policy. And in that draft policy for ports now is a draft policy for ports. Somehow they found it necessary to put in there that stevedores are responsible for the high price of goods that we pay in this country. The stevedores are responsible for it because of the fact of how they work and how much they get paid. So So there has been at the highest level collusion and a conspiracy to deal with that bunch of people that they view as insurgents, and they now have figured out a way how they are going to deal with it. Because in that draft policy, not only are we going to end up with sugar going to Big Creek, they are also going to share the cargo. They are going to, if left unchecked, they are going to decimate what is one of the proudest tradition of organized labor in this country. And I say that is not, you can't argue that. Some people look on them and they because they look on them and say, oh, they're loud and they're confronted. Listen, they are 100% unionized. And the benefits that they have in the face of what has come after them is based strictly on how organized they've been, how brave they've been, and how willing they've been to get on the front line and defend their bread. And all labor in this country should look to them and realize if they decimate that, what are the implications for you? Because that unit is, their record shows they are still, they have been still. But when you put the multi-million dollars of a multinational ASR along with the millions and millions of dollars of the banana barons, and you put that along with a billionaire foreigner, and then you put that along with a government that is not going to be interested, the odds are wicked, man. The odds are wicked. In fact, we are told that ASR was able to move its ship yesterday because Santander came to their rescue. Imagine the forces that have gathered together.
Yeah.
The mash them bedroom, like they are enemy of the state, man. Like they are the enemies of the state because they make $35,000 a year and they're black and then from the south side, and that should never be. That's the problem. I swear to you, that's the problem.
Our time check is 7:52. We value the honesty of your conversation and bringing us to the full awareness of what troubling times we're living in when it comes to labor rights. Because if my position is, if as Belizeans we let the stevedores go down, that really today for me, tomorrow for you, the same thing that happened a year ago with those 35 people who were terminated. Now look 1 year later. Look 1 year later where a lot of the workers there. While the CEOs and the clerk of the National Assembly and the GG, then people that sit down go to their money. I'll go ahead and give the mic to both Moz and Brother Dean for final thoughts because we're coming up on our 8 o'clock hour and I don't see anyone else saying anything else. So go ahead and give your final thoughts, Moz, and then Brother Dean, you could close it off.
I would just like to say I had no intention of getting worked up to emotional. I really wanted to be composed. It's very difficult because I have to admit I am angry to my core. Thanks for the opportunity.
Respect, brother. Respect.
Respect, Brother Mose, and I feel your pain, my brother, and those are the levels that as leaders we go sometimes, and I've been there. I understand the struggle today. I step into our kitchen here at Market Square, and I meet our driver staring out the window, and I asked him, "What's happening?" And he said, "I don't know, a sister was walking with her lunch towards the Ministry of Health and simply just fell down on the pavement, out." And you know, people rushed there and she was carried up the Assembly State building and shipped off to the hospital. I am yet to find out the details of what transpired, but I don't know if it's the stress, if it's the pressure gone up, but she came to buy her lunch and walking, and so the feeling where you have the same kind of feeling I had a couple months and continue to have as I continue to see the level of disrespect and no kind of sympathy, and no kind of empathy to the people who are being trampled and to the people who are being affected by this oligarchic capitalist system. Sister Koba, let me just read your very important comment. And I because this is one of the questions that keeps puzzling me as well. She said, I would just like to comment that it just saddens me how we Belizeans allow these people to continue whopping us and we just seem to sit down and take it. And some of us even work harder. Imagine some of my health colleagues just want to do more overtime to make up for the 10% we lost. I have remained in the jewel to continue nursing my people. I am feeling so disrespected and disappointed. I feel you. That's my level of anger right now. And we're with you, my brother. We, like the good sister, we feel your pain. Sister Cordelia, I am with you and the CWMOs. I feel the pain. We, the Belizean people, got to free ourselves from mental slavery. And that is the sad state of affair that we're in. Our people can't seem to process that this type of treatment, no normal, this the abnormality, and we have to fight back. And each day I pray for the wisdom to figure out how do I not how do I transform people's mindset to understand that what you're going through is not acceptable, this is not normal, and you have to change your attitude in accepting this kind of leadership at every level, because it's not only at the political level. No. So again, my brother, thanks. Sister Marika, let me just quickly read your comment. Don't apologize, Brother Mose. On the nights I went out to the port when you guys were on strike, I spoke to these guys one-on-one. And it was the fire that they possessed and shared that made me decide to join my union. It was pure love. I ate soup and got a real understanding that you all for that. Thank you all for that. Sorry. Yeah. So thanks for the comments to all those who joined us tonight. Your presence is always appreciated as much as possible. Once there is health and God is willing, we will be back here on Thursday again. We try to feature our guests every other week, and then during those sessions that we don't have a guest, myself and Sister Yaya would engage in just general labor discussions. We choose a topic and we invite your comments and input, and we encourage you to come. We're here to learn. We just started this platform simply to share knowledge. We are not experts on labor, and so we are simply here to teach each other and to learn from each other, and we invite you each and every time to make our contributions known.
I see one more comment, Brother Dean. I stand with the Christian Workers Union. At some time, we need to say enough is enough and act on it. Something needs to give. Touch one, touch all.
Sister Trisha Paris, thanks
Respect.
for coming.
All right, so it is 7:58. Thanks, Mose. I just ask that, especially the people are aware under stress. So please take some time for investing in self-care. Yes. Seriously, we want to be as healthy as possible, especially during these difficult times. To just step back, take some breaths, drink water, ask for help, cry, curse out somebody, get it out. Get it out there, okay? Here, our brothers and sister drop down today. We really want to be in the best possible health. So, and for make we be mindful when we talk to each other, for be kind, for checking from with people. Man, united we stand, divided we fall. Until next Thursday, everyone get home safe, rest well. One love.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Sister Trish.
Good night, Ramos.